What's up, everybody, and welcome back for another week of MLS games. In this video, we're changing it up slightly. We're just going to do a review of last week's games, and then in another video, I will do my predictions for this weekend's game coming up. Just thought I'd give this a shot to see what you all think. So please tell me in the comments down below what your thoughts are, and if you think I should stick with two different videos or all just one and make it a really long one. Hopefully this makes it a little bit shorter so I don't take up a lot of your time. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. So our first game of the week was Chicago Fire versus FC Dallas. I thought FC Dallas was going to lose to Chicago 2-1, but in all reality, this game was very boring. Ended up in a 0-0 draw. I watched the highlights, and I was bored with the highlights. So I can only imagine what it was like for the people at the game. There was 5 yellow cards in the game, and that was the extent of that game. So the next game here, we have FC Cincinnati versus Montreal. I thought this game was going to be a 2-0 win for FC Cincinnati, but it was actually a 4-3 win for Montreal. A lot of goals scored in here. The first goal came from Brandon Vasquez, had some nice handles in the box, puts it in the back of the net. And then the second goal comes right after that, very shortly after that. Mihalovic scores to make it 1-1. Then in the 20th minute, Vasquez has a nice inside box like cross, but when it crosses, it goes off of Montreal's Johnston and into the goal. So it was an actual own goal right after the second goal of the game. So now it's 2-1 FC Cincinnati. So it's like Cincinnati is leading all the way up until the 41st minute, and then Mihalovic scores again, and he just gets behind the defenders and puts it in the net. And then a couple minutes after that, we get our fifth goal from Kamara. He has a nice run down the right side, and then puts it in near post to actually put Montreal up 3-2 at that point. So then we go into halftime, and we get into the 61st minute, and there's a penalty. Camacho does commit that foul in the box, in my opinion. And then Acosta steps up, knocks the penalty back. It is 3-3. And then not even 6 minutes later, so like all the goals like happened like right back to back. So in the 67th minute, a nice cross comes in. The goalie gets a piece of it, but Torres is back post and just taps it in to give Montreal the win 4-3. So a lot of goals scored in that game. Very surprised by that, but it's always nice to have those entertaining games. So now we move on to Toronto FC and New York City FC. I thought this was going to end up in a 2-2 draw, but it actually ended up being a 2-1 win for Toronto FC. We've got goals by Jimenez in the 31st minute for Toronto. And then about 12 minutes later, Toronto kind of fakes, their first person fakes a free kick. So 2 people stood up by the free kick. One faked it. They all took off running. The next person took it. I can't remember who took it. And Martins for New York City FC heads it, goes off his head weird, and another own goal. So we have 2 own goals in the first 3 matches of the weekend, which is crazy. And then at the end of the game for New York City, Huber scores with an assist from Morales in the 92nd minute to get one back. So ends up being 2-1 Toronto with a win at home. So that moves us into Columbus versus Nashville. I thought that this was going to be a 3-1 victory for Columbus because of how their like current form. But it actually ended up being a 1-0 win for Nashville. Comes early in the game, and it comes off an assist from Washington to Mile. Just a nice wide open header and puts it into the far post in the 28th minute. How he got so open is one of the defenders slipped. So, and then there was also controversy in this game. Mukhtar had a nice couple step overs, and then shot, hits the post, and it rolls across the goal line, and the goalie stops it. Very controversial, as if it went all the way over, or if it didn't. I don't think it did. I think that you could still see the ball on the line, but tell me what your thoughts are if you saw that, and tell me if you think that it was a goal or not. And that's about it for that game, with Nashville winning 1-0, which moves us on to another game that is 1-0 that I thought was going to be 2-0 Atlanta United over DC United. Like I said, though, in the 90th minute, so at the very end of the game, and it was actually in the 94th minute, Moreno puts it in the net from a cross. It was actually a corner kick from Lennon, and boy, was it weird. He hit it, and it like trickled in, so like it like bounced, and then just like kind of slowly went in far post, and like Hamid dove for it, but just couldn't get to it. So, also on top of that, as an Atlanta fan, I heard that Alonso is out now, MCL tear, out for the season. That kind of sucks. Supposedly Joseph Martinez is going to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to their hospital to get his knee looked at again. It sounds like he tweaked it. So we've got some injuries, and then Rossetto, he hamstring, he's out 3 to 4 weeks. So a lot of injuries here at the beginning of the season for Atlanta. So hopefully all of them guys get well. Hopefully they come back stronger. It kind of sucks. Alonso is, kind of older, so he's coming down to like the end of his soccer career. But hopefully he can bounce back, and he has a couple more years to play. But we'll see. But hopefully for them, I hope they all get well soon. And so let's move on to another 1-0 game. The Revs versus the Red Bulls. I thought that this game was actually going to be a 2-1 win for the Revs, and actually it was the other way. Red Bulls win this game. Again, that one goal waits until the very end of the game. Red Bulls started off pretty good, pretty dominant, had a couple nice shots at the beginning of the game. Then they pretty much dominated, in my opinion. But it is what it is. And then there was a red card for Amaya, I think that's how you say it, leaving the Red Bull with 10 men. But they get in the 90th minute, Red Bull crossed it in. The Revs try to clear it. I think it was Farrell. I think that's who it was. I didn't catch the name. He tries to kick it, hits Polster, and goes off of his shin and then into the back of the net. So that is very unfortunate. But that leaves us with 3 own goals for this week. I mean, so far, which is crazy to me. So with that game being the only goal, the only other thing that happened is Busca, he gets a yellow card in the 93rd, and then in the 94th he gets a second one, which leads to a red for the Revs. So there was 2 red cards, but it was so close to the end of the game, it didn't really make a difference. So we move into our next game, which is Orlando City versus LAFC. I thought this game was going to be a 2-2 draw, but LAFC proved me wrong. They scored 4. While I did get the Orlando City score right too. Looks like it was a pretty good game. Very surprised that LAFC beat them that bad. I know Orlando City isn't the greatest team, but it is what it is. So Arango, so we'll start off with the first goal that was scored by Rodriguez, but Arango, who assisted it, got a beautiful pass from Vela. It was a pretty lofted pass, but it was nice, and he crosses it over, and Rodriguez puts it in the top right of the net for the first goal of the game. And then you had Cara with a nice header pass, put it right to Pato, and he smashes it in to the bottom right in the 36th minute. So ties it up 1-1. And then Murillo gets it off a bad clear by Orlando, and it was just pretty much handed to him, and he scores near post to make it a 2-1 game for LA. And then shortly after, a little less than 10 minutes, Pereira finds Matinho wide open on the left side, and he makes it count and puts it in the far post to tie it up 2-2 in the 45th minute, make it a tie ball game at that point, 2-2 at halftime. And then Sanchez, in the 51st minute, he gets a goal outside of the box, near post. Maybe shouldn't have gotten it past the goalie, but that puts LA up 3-2. And then in the 93rd minute, Apuku with a tap in the 93rd minute, where Murillo just had a nice little tap over and to Apuku, like it was just a little just, and he puts it in to seal the deal. I know, I like the animations, right? So that leads us into our next game, Union versus Charlotte. I thought this game was going to be a 1-1 draw. It actually ended up being a 2-0 win for the Union. Nothing spectacular. The goals came very early in the game, so it was a beautiful long pass to get to Santos, and then he passes it behind the line. He crosses it to Carranza. Yeah, Carranza, and he puts it in top shelf, score. And then again, the pressure by Union in the 46th minute, just a bad pass by Charlotte, and Gazdag gets it handed to him at his feet, and it just 1v1 with the keeper and wins the game. Not wins the game, but puts it behind the keeper, and it was actually the game winning. But after that, not much happened in this game, so Union win 2-0 over Charlotte. That moves us into the Earthquakes versus Austin FC. I thought that Austin would win this game 1-0. It actually ended up to be a 2-2 draw. So it started off real early. Rudy scores in the 11th minute, and then Drusi puts in a penalty in the 52nd minute to make it 2-0 for Austin FC. And then the comeback starts. Earthquakes, Ibusi puts in the penalty in the 70th minute. The penalty, he was fouled in the box. The Austin defender really didn't go for the ball all that much. I feel like, so it is a pin, and Ibusi puts it in the back of the net, makes it 2-1. And then in the 72nd minute, our boy Cade Colwell puts it in the net. The ball was crossed in from a corner kick. Ball bounced around, and he just comes in and smashes. He's like, I got it, guys. Puts it in. So that ties it up in the 79th minute, and not much happens after that. So Cade Cow. Why am I saying Colwell? Cade Cow puts it in the back of the net to tie the game, and it finishes off like that. So that leads us into Miami versus Houston. I thought this game was going to be a 1-0 win for Inter Miami, but boy was I wrong on this game. Houston wins 3-1, and Miami's struggles continue. We got goals in the 49th minute by Quintero, and then the 57th minute, Colt with a penalty scores off of a penalty for Houston to make it 2-0. And then Higuain scores a penalty in the 66th to make it 2-1. And then in the 93rd minute to finish it off, Pasher gives Picault a nice pass on the break, and he finished nicely on the goalkeeper to make it a 3-1 game. And Houston goes into Miami and gets the 3 points. So next up we have Minnesota United versus Seattle Sounders. I thought this game was going to be a 2-2 draw, but it ended up being a 2-1 win for Seattle. This game looked like it was actually a pretty good game. There's a lot of good chances, a lot of good shots in the first half. From what I saw, Paulo scores in the 38th minute off of Ladero, his assist. And then in the 49th minute, Jordan Morris tries to cross it in. And again, we have another own goal Coleman, it bounces off of him and goes in for Seattle to make it 2-1, and then Resno converts a penalty in the 82nd minute. The Seattle defenders pretty much sandwiched the guy that received the penalty. I mean, they just, if you can go back and watch that highlight, they just sandwich him and move on, which is pretty wild. So 2-1 win for Seattle there. We move on to our next game. We have Whitecaps against Sporting KC. I'm sorry. And I thought this was going to be a 2-1 win for the Whitecaps, but it actually ended up being a 1-0 win for them. And here we got nothing really goes on until the 73rd minute when Raposo puts a goal in. So it was in the far post on the ground from a bouncing ball that was bouncing around. So not very much went on in this game. So 1-0 Whitecaps. That leads us into Colorado Rapids versus Real Salt Lake. I thought it was going to be a 1-0 win for Real Salt Lake. It actually ended up being a 1-1 draw. Yeah, so in the right before halftime, Ruiz puts in a penalty kick for Real Salt Lake. It was a soft penalty, if I remember correctly. The defender really didn't do much, and the player went down pretty easily. So it is what it is. You get whatever the ref gives you. Sometimes, and VAR should have looked at it. It was very soft to me, but I guess the laws of the games are the laws of the game are the laws of the game. So we move on to the second goal of the game, which Colorado ties it up, and I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry, I had it down. It's been a crazy last couple of days, so my apologies. But he puts it in with a nice left toe poke, sliding in right at the penalty spot is where he starts sliding, and his foot is out farther than the defenders. It was actually a nice goal. I do remember that part. So 1-1 there in Colorado. Colorado's fans went wild whenever he scored. It was pretty nice to watch there. So we move into our last game of the weekend. We got Portland Timbers versus LA Galaxy. I thought the Timbers would win 3-2 in this game, but they ended up losing 3-1. I'm not sure what happened. I feel like at Providence Park, Timbers are usually pretty good, and here they're kind of struggling this year. They're in 11th place right now in the table, but anyway, here we have Grandisar with a cross to Chicharito, and he pokes it in at the back post to make it 1-0 in the 9th minute of the game. And then, again, we have another own goal. I feel like I've never seen this many own goals in a weekend. But LA Galaxy, Grandisar crosses it, and it goes off of Tiloma. I'm sorry, terrible with names. But then in the 47th, 48th minute, it got worse for the Timbers, and they got a straight red card from Vanilla, and he pushes the Galaxy player in the face. I don't know if it should have been a straight red. For sure a yellow card, but I would be upset too. The guy came up behind me, and he has both hands on my shoulders, and he's kind of pulling him back. He's just trying to get him off of him, and the reaction, he just pushed him in the face. I guess you got to be more careful about that, and that's probably why he got the red card, was the face area. If he would have pushed him in the chest, I think it would have just been a yellow. But very unfortunate for the Timbers. So then we move on, though, and then in the 51st minute, Paloma gets his redemption from his own goal, and he puts in a banger of a free kick. It was a very nicely taken free kick, and very, very nice goal. So you got to love that. And then in the 59th minute, to stretch that lead a little too far, LA Galaxy scores. Edwards drops it off to Chicharito, and he one-times it into the far post, and that wins the game for him. It was a nice goal by Chicharito. His first one was nice too, but it was a kind of a nice little just tap in. And then the only other thing that happened is Delgado picks up his second yellow for LA, and he does get a red card. So they finished the last 30-ish minutes of the game 10v10 out on the field. So that is the games for week 6. Really, it was technically a part of week 5, I guess, from what MLS commentators were saying. So those few little games that happened a couple of weeks ago while everyone was on international break, I guess, coincides with this. So, which doesn't really make sense to me, because that puts a couple of teams like Charlotte having 2 games in week 5. So, anyway, so here's the current standings. We got Philadelphia, Red Bull, Atlanta, Chicago, Columbus, Orlando, and Toronto. Currently the top 7 in the East. In the West, you have LAFC, Salt Lake, LA Galaxy, Austin FC, Dallas, Colorado, and Houston. So that would be set up for a wild playoffs if the playoffs would happen today. Even though we're only 6 games in for some people, 5 games for others. But that's the current standing. So that leads us into our team of the week and player of the week. But first, let's talk about our games here. We've picked 73 games for the MLS, which that has been every game so far. We have only gotten the winner correct 29 times, and we've only had 4 perfect games, which both scores and the winner correct. So, pretty rough right now for MLS for me, for my predictions. But it is what it is. So now let's look at our team of the week. I feel like Houston was the team of the week. They played a good game with that 3-1 over Miami. I know Miami's struggling, but yes. So I have Houston, and then player of the week, I had to give it to Chicharito with his two-goal game there at the end of the weekend. Chicharito with 2 goals. So with that being said, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my content, please subscribe. So hopefully tomorrow you will get to see the next video of my predictions for next week. So until then, we'll see you next time.